Welcome everyone to this deep dive explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly chilling supernatural mystery that proves without a doubt some secrets just refuse to stay buried. We're going to break down an insane story of betrayal, dark magic, and a vengeance that literally spans decades. The way this narrative unfolds is an absolute masterclass in misdirection, and we're going to peel back every single layer of this horrifying tale together.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Imagine returning to your childhood home, a place of supposed comfort, right? Only to be met by a mysterious local who delivers this terrifying warning. Get out of here before morning. That's exactly what happens to our protagonist family. It instantly shatters the whole illusion of a peaceful family getaway. I mean, the sheer panic in this warning sets the stage for the absolute nightmare that's about to unfold. It lets us know right away that this family is walking blindfolded into a trap.
Part 1. The setup. A return to the ancestral village. So, on the surface, the setup is totally innocent. Samir, his brother Deepak, and their uncle Kaka return to their ancestral village after being away for 20 long years. They bring along Samir's son Nishant and his adopted daughter Sunitha. To the younger generation, this is just a fun road trip. They're taking selfies, complaining about the lack of Wi-Fi, completely oblivious to the heavy, unspoken tension carried by the older guys. And the stated reason for the trip? Just business. Specifically finalizing a land deal involving an orchard of 1,500 mango trees. That is a massive piece of property, and it perfectly grounds the story in mundane reality. We hear the men haggling over property values, acting like typical businessmen, but this highly practical financial focus? It's a brilliant narrative device, because it completely masks the true supernatural danger waiting for them. They think they're here to sell 1,500 trees, but they're actually here to pay a very, very different kind of debt.
The transition from a normal family drama into pure, unadulterated horror begins with this impossible question. Samir's son, Nishant, is looking through these old photographs from 1995 and he spots a local girl in the background of a picture. The chilling part? He literally just saw that exact same girl walking around the village today. She hasn't aged a single day in over 2 decades. No way, right? This brilliantly illustrates the first major crack in reality. It forces us and the family to realize that the rules of the natural world just do not apply here anymore.
Which brings us to Part 2, the escalation, signs of a haunting.
Once that crack in reality appears, things fall apart incredibly fast. We move from subtle, creepy clues right into full-blown supernatural chaos. The entity haunting this village isn't just trying to spook them, it is actively hunting them down. The danger is immediate, and it hits in 3 distinct ways. First, Sunitha falls completely under demonic possession, just dropping unconscious and at the total mercy of the spirit. Then, Nishant mysteriously disappears, which obviously leaves the family in absolute panic. And finally, Kaka, the uncle who orchestrated the land deal to begin with, is brutally attacked. The entity is systematically targeting the family members, just dismantling their safety piece by piece.
Right in the middle of all this chaos, a terrified villager shouts this exact phrase. What happened 20 years ago has happened again. Wow. This is the crucial point that connects the present-day horror directly to a deeply buried secret. It confirms that these attacks aren't just random ghost sightings. They're the continuation of a dark, violent history that Samir and the older generation desperately tried to leave behind.
So let's unpack that. Part 3. The red herring. The 20-year-old secret.
To understand the present, we really have to look at the past. But the story throws a massive curveball, a classic red herring. This is a fake backstory that both younger family members and us, the audience, are initially led to believe. This is the accepted village lore, a lie told for 2 decades to cover up something so much worse. Let's just walk through the timeline of this accepted lie. Back in 1995, a young Samir had a secret romance with a village girl named Ria. Because of family drama, they planned to elope. But, according to the story, Ria never showed up. The village rumor was that Ria's mother, Vimala Davies, found out about the plan, was consumed by rage, and murdered her own daughter before dying by suicide. Supposedly, she left behind a letter promising to make Samir's family's life a living hell, and now, in 2026, the family has walked right back into her cursed domain.
Based on that timeline, the story frames Vimala Devi as your textbook vengeful spirit. She was known to practice dark magic, the occult, while she was alive, which basically allowed her to become this massively powerful force in death. The family genuinely believes she's an unprovoked evil entity targeting them out of pure spite. In fact, we learned she already claimed the life of Samir's older brother, Ajay, years ago, which is the whole reason they fled the village in the first place. Now, she's back to finish the job.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is part 4, the twist, the horrifying truth. Up until now, we've bought into this ghost story about a crazy, murderous mother. But the supernatural thriller genre thrives on peeling back layers, right? And the final layer of this mystery reveals a truth way more horrifying than any ghost. The key to unlocking this all comes down to Nishant's disappearance. He wasn't kidnapped by the evil spirit. Actually, scratch that. He was being protected by Ria's spirit. Ria guides Nishant and explains that she can't stop her mother because she is magically bound by her. To fix this, Nishant has to dig up a buried occult yantra, a dark magical artifact, and destroy it. Once he breaks that physical anchor, Ria's spirit is finally freed, allowing her to speak the absolute truth she's been holding on to for 20 years.
And here is that truth, right next to the lie. The village believed Vimla Devi killed Ria and herself in a fit of rage over the elopement. But the horrifying reality? Sameer's own uncle, Kaka, and his brother, Deepak, orchestrated the entire thing. Knowing the village was away at a fair, and knowing Sameer was waiting outside the village boundaries, Kaka and Deepak hired goons to brutally murder both Ria and her mother just to stop the wedding. They then staged the whole bloody scene to look like a murder-suicide.
Talk about a game changer. This revelation completely flips the entire story on its head. Suddenly, the real villains aren't the ghosts. They're the living, breathing family members, Deepak and Kaka, who have been hiding a double homicide for 2 decades. Ria and Vimla Devi are the true victims here, stripped of their lives and their reputations. And Sameer? He's just the unknowing survivor, a guy who spent 20 years believing the love of his life abandoned him, never knowing his own flesh and blood had her slaughtered. Vimla Devi isn't just an evil spirit anymore, she is a betrayed mother seeking entirely justified revenge against her murderers.
This brings us to the final showdown. Part 5, the resolution, love versus vengeance.
We've reached the heart-pounding climax of this explainer. With the truth out in the open, Vimla Devi's wrath reaches its absolute peak. The story forces a brutal collision between 2 incredibly powerful forces, a mother's righteous vengeance and a daughter's enduring love. The stakes are raised to their absolute limit. Vimla Devi possesses Sameer, forcing him to stand teetering on a dangerous ledge. She declares, "Today, no one from this family will survive." Having already taken out the guilty brothers, she now wants to wipe out Sameer and his son Nishant. She wants to end the bloodline entirely, punishing the innocent just to ensure that the guilty family name is erased from the earth forever.
But right as Sameer is about to be forced off that ledge, Ria's spirit intervenes. And this really hits the emotional core of the narrative. You see, Ria didn't stick around as a spirit out of anger or hatred. She tells Sameer she waited in the village for 20 years purely to tell him one single thing, that she never betrayed him. She wanted him to know she was on her way to meet him that night and that her love for him was real the whole time.
It's Ria's pure, untainted love that ultimately breaks the cycle of violence. She confronts her mother, just pleading with her to realize that Sameer is completely innocent. He was just as much a victim of his family's cruelty as they were. Ria's forgiveness totally overpowers Vimla's need for bloodshed. She actually convinces her mother to spare Sameer's life, proving his innocence and finally putting that 20-year-old curse to rest.
So, as we arrive at the end of this incredible story, I want to leave you with this final thought. Does true love really have the power to stop beyond the grave vengeance? This story argues that while human evil can create literal monsters, it's ultimately empathy and love that restore the balance. The biggest takeaway here is how a simple, everyday land deal served as a Trojan horse for this deeply emotional story about betrayal, truth, and ultimate forgiveness. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this deep dive leaves you super eager to explore the hidden depths of your next favorite thriller.